Hola amigos de Wine News TV, seguimos informando aquí desde el Fine Wine Celebration de Plaza Cellars. Esta va a ser una entrevista en inglés porque vamos a hablar con una de las mejores bodegas de Napa Valley, O'Shaughnessy. Ya le voy a preguntar a mi invitado Sean cómo se pronuncia. Sean, how
Sean,
are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So first of all, how do you pronounce the name of the winery?
O'Shaughnessy, good Irish name.
Good Irish name.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about the winery. This is my first time doing content with you.
yeah, yeah.
I've done more than 800 interviews over the last 15 years as a wine content creator. And I've had this wine before, previous vintages, of course. And I've always been curious about the history, the foundation of the winery per
Yeah,
se.
yeah, yeah. So Betty O'Shaughnessy founded the winery. She is originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and she bought a home in Oakville on the valley floor in the late 80s as sort of a vacation home. And when she
Okay.
purchased that home, it had 30 acres of grapes.
Okay.
And so she became a farmer.
She was in a different line of business, Betty.
She was.
Okay.
She did some real estate investment in Minneapolis and always enjoyed wine. And she had a cooking school, so food and wine always went
Right.
together. So she found herself, buying a home out in Napa, enjoying the lifestyle out there. And then about a decade later, she got bit by the wine bug. It's sort of
When it bites
it
hard.
bites hard, right? And so, being a farmer, and being interacting with other wineries, she decided she wanted to get into the game as well. So she decided to look for a property up on the hillside because she wanted to make a wine that was more substantial than maybe what the valley floor provided. So she found a great property on Howell Mountain, and she purchased that in '96. She was able to develop a little bit of the vineyard in '97, and then I was hired in '99. So I've been there 25 years now.
Wow.
So I helped develop the remaining part of the vineyard. We started digging a cave into the side of the hill in 2000, and then we were finished with the cave. We took all the dirt and the tailings and we compacted a site and made a spot for a winery, which we finished in 2002.
What's your role in the winery? What is?
So I am the winemaker. I started off as the
Oh,
winemaker.
you're the wine. So
Yeah.
you're the magic man. You make the magic happen. Wow.
I'm the shepherd of the grapes. Yes.
Great, great.
Yeah. No, it's been a privilege to be able to. It's not that often as a winemaker to start with a project that's basically tabula rasa. It's nothing. It's raw land, and you're able to plant the varieties you want to plant. You envision the wine that you want to make. You're able to design and help build the winery, and then craft the wines and see their evolution over a very long period of time. Because the reality is it takes a lot of time to understand wine. I mean, wine is a seasonal product, right?
Mhm.
Unlike say beer or some other products where you can make a new batch every week if you want.
Yeah.
You know,
With
wine
wine, you
is
have one shot a year, right?
one
To
shot a
get it
year.
right or
Correct.
mess it up.
Yeah, and then Mother Nature plays into that. So
Of course.
it's a learning process because you work with these blocks and these clones and these varietals, and you start to see what they like, how they ferment, what the macerations are like, what they turn out to. So it's several years of, let's say, experimenting before you start to really get a sense of the vineyard and how the wines will be and how that crafts into your final product. So
How many acres do you have right now?
so that property is, it originally started as a 60-acre property. It's now 120 acres,
Okay.
and we have 40 acres planted to vine. And
What
so,
do you have planned? Cab?
so yeah, that's one of the other really unusual things is that we grow all 8 of the historic Bordeaux varietals. So
Okay.
most people know the traditional 5,
Yeah.
right? So Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot. In 1855, when they did the classification of the chateaus in Bordeaux, there were actually 8 varietals that were permissible in a blend. In 1932, when they had phylloxera and the vineyards were devastated, after that, they only replanted to 6 of those varietals. The other 2 were basically lost and they're no longer allowed in Bordeaux. So those varietals, a lot of people I ask if they can guess which of those varietals might be, but still permissible in Bordeaux today is Carmenere. I think it's a wonderful
I
variety.
love it. I'm going to Chile in March.
Oh,
I love
the best,
Carmenere.
the
Yeah.
best. Yeah, I'm a big Clos Apalta fan. I just love the wines that they make
Of
there.
course.
But
Yeah.
Carmenere has this great balance to it. The tannins are silky smooth. The color is rich. It actually was known.
Very peppery, roasted pepper
It
notes. Yeah.
can be, when Chile sort of identified Carmenere, when they thought it was Merlot,
It
and
was,
they were,
yeah.
and they finally identified it as Carmenere, and they started making the wine the way it should be, it lost a lot of that herbaceous tone, but it is known to be more like Cabernet Franc, more of a herbaceous wine. A funny story is that the familial name for Carmenere in Bordeaux is Grand Verdú, and Cabernet Sauvignon was known as simply Verdú. So at some point in time, Carmenere was thought.
So it was the older, more reputable brother, right, more high scale up.
Yes, but it's a difficult variety to grow in Bordeaux. Maybe as time goes now, Bordeaux is getting warmer and stuff, and it's changed. But there's only about 10 hectares of Carmenere in Bordeaux.
And which you have Carmenere, so you have 6, the 5 classical of Carmenere, right. And which are the two?
The 2 unusual ones are Saint Macaire, which is a very unusual varietal. There's a town outside of Bordeaux along the Entremer called Saint Macaire, which we think where it originated from. It's very similar to Malbec, very deep in color. It has quite a sauvage type of, beef
wild
jerky. Yeah, exactly.
Herbs, lots of herbs.
More animal,
Okay, all right.
Sort of like tarry and soy sauce and these really
blood.
Yes, exactly. It's a fun varietal. A little bit goes a long way, but it has a lot of that color that binds up to those tannins. And then the last varietal that we have is Gros Verdot, which I never
had any of those two.
Yeah, you would think it's a cousin to Petit Verdot, so big and small.
Love Petit Verdot.
But it's not related at all. And it's almost the antithesis of Petit Verdot. It's very light in color. It's very sort of peppery. And I never really intended to plant Gros Verdot. I had researched all the others, and I knew I wanted to plant them. But I had a gentleman up in the Sierra foothills who had Gros Verdot, but he didn't have Saint Macaire. And he asked if we could trade. So I said, okay, we'll trade some budwood. So we got 300 sticks, and we decided to plant them, and now we made.
Let's get into the first one, and then we'll keep talking about grapes. So here we have the Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon from O'Shaughnessy 2019. You guys have been in Puerto Rico for a bit, because I remember about more than 10 years
10
ago.
years, yeah. I can't remember the exact amount of time.
I think it's more than 10, because 10 years ago is 2014. And I think I saw your label for the first time, and I love Ireland. My favorite comedian is Conan O'Brien. He's from Boston, but Matt Gorley, his producer, follows me. He's a big wine guy. His cat is named Margot. At Corley.
Perfect.
And so I love Ireland, the dark humor, all of that, and the history of fighting and trying to get ahead, obviously, with the Brits there. And I remember seeing this label for the first time around 2010, 2011, thereabouts.
Yeah, I hadn't looked back and what was the first vintage we sold in Puerto Rico, but we've had a good run here and a good connection.
Love the current here. This is so rich, so aromatic, and you have that.
Yeah, the Napa Cab has become sort of our calling card. Our first vintage of the Napa Cab was 2012. The first vintage of our Howell Mountain, which is our flagship wine, was in 2000. So not only does Betty have the 120 acres on Howell Mountain, but her home that I mentioned she purchased in Oakville is a 32-acre piece, and 30 of it's planted to grapes. We now use Cabernet from that property, and we have 2 vineyards on Mount Veeder. So we cover arguably what I'd like to say is the 3 best appellations in Napa. We have 17 now AVAs in Napa Valley, and we have Mount Veeder. We represent our grapes are in Mount Veeder, Oakville, and Howell Mountain. So the Napa Cab is a blend, almost equally, about 30% of each, 33% of each of those vineyards, and it's completely estate winery. So all in total, Betty and her husband own about 500 acres of land in Napa and about 140 under vine. And we have 2 wineries. So
what I love about this wine is that in spite of its power, its richness, it stays fresh. It has this minty menthol note at the end. As of late, maybe it's been correcting itself, I guess, but you would see very pornographic wines out of Napa Valley, right? Pardon the term, but this is the way I communicate with my audience. This hedonistic, rich, voluptuous wines that by the second glass, your palate is coaxed, anesthetized. This is gorgeous. This is brilliant. This is a delicious, rich Cabernet textbook Napa with that generous fruit, but there's a freshness and there's this lovely acidity to it as well that I think, that's why you always think of of a Napa Cap of this quality to cut through the fat of a nice piece of meat.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The Napa was pushing the limits of
Yeah,
ripeness and richness, and in the time it was accepted, and when Parker was enjoying these types of full-bodied wines, and I think that Napa is a very young region as well.
it
We're
is.
also learning, and so we're learning what is the best style for us. And Cabernet is king. We know what we're producing, and it's now become more of finding the balance in the wine that we like. And so I think over time, as you mentioned, we're sliding back a little bit from that full ripeness. We always will be a riper,
Of course,
district, but
you cannot discredit who or what you are. I mean, that's your climate. But here, I I do get the maybe those notes of this salted chocolate that comes from the barrel, of course, but that is not what comes across first. It's this generous, rich fruit, and then the fig paste, the currant, the cassis, and this minty, it feels like very healthy fruit,
yeah.
very healthy.
19 was a great vintage. I think the aromatic profile of the 19s are so floral and just very uplifting. And this being a blend of our three appellations, it really shows the attributes of all those areas. So the Mount Veeder that you mentioned, sort of more mentally and minty, that's sort of what we get from the Mount Veeder side, because it's on the Mayacamas range, which is the west side of the valley. So the sun comes up over the east. The morning sun on the west side gives it a little bit cooler, more blue fruits. And then on the Vaca range, which is the east side, we get that sort of hot afternoon sun. So
Right.
we sort of get more of the caramely, rum raisiny type of characters from the Howell Mountain piece. And so the Napa Cab blends all those together. And then the two mountain vineyards are sort of smoothed out by the Oakville piece. They give that real silky texture to the wine.
This one, the second one, 2018 was a near perfect vintage, if I'm not
It
mistaken.
was a great vintage. Yeah,
Was a
16, 17, 18, 19. There's a
But
trio of
the
great vintages.
18 is so complex because you have that generous fruit. There's I guess, a linear quality. I mean, there's this correspondence or this coherence between the first one and this one. But here I get like soy sauce and some meaty notes and so complex. I mean, this is a baby. I am an attorney, as you know. We're probably committing a felony drinking this so young. It's a little bit of child abuse here.
Yeah.
This is a baby of a wine, but so rich, so nice
Yeah, Howell
on the
Mountain is
nose here.
Howell Mountain's known for being a region that produces wines of long age, and they're substantial, and they're meant to be cellared. And so that's sort of we wanted to be true to our region. We wanted to make a wine that was substantial. But when I started looking at wines from Howell Mountain, I noticed that some of them become too tannic, and tannic wines with age, they get a little rustic and they
Yeah.
dry out. And we wanted to make a wine that was more contemporary. And so using all those blending varietals that I mentioned, we have. So we're normally, the Howell Mountain Cab is about an 80 to 85% Cabernet, and then you have the 20 to 15% are all those blenders that I mentioned. And that really
Including the
gives,
three obscure sort of.
yeah, they're very small. Actually, the Gros Verdot never makes the Howell Mountain Cabernet. We only use the varietals that really will enhance our wine. The Gros Verdot will go into the Napa Cab. It's usually one barrel. It's not a big deal, but we want the richness to really come through on the Howell Mountain Cab. So all the other varietals on really good years, we get 7 into it, but we only use it if it really is going to enhance the wine. And that sets us aside. It makes us very unique because most wineries or most growers are producing Cabernet. They're not planting weird Carmenere, and they're not planting
Yeah.
Saint Macaire because there's not a demand for that. And also the price is all in the Cabernet. So as a grower,
This
it's all about Cabernet.
this Howell Mountain has a 2-minute finish. It stays with you. It keeps coming back from the back end. Amazing Howell Mountain or Shaughnessy Cabernet Sauvignon. Thank you so much, Sean. I know you
My
gotta
pleasure.
go. I'll see you around in a bit doing my tours, my rounds. Hopefully, I'll make it up to Napa one of these days, and then we can do some very cool content and conversations over there. Congratulations. Mi gente, qué ricos vinos de O'Shaughnessy. Si a usted le gustan los Napa, los Cabernet, Napa Valley, sobre todo, descubran estas bellezas. Son joyas, vinos de extrema potencia, pero mucha elegancia, a pesar de esa fruta generosa del Cabernet, que ya de por sí es un varietal muy robusto, y Napa Valley, donde se hacen algunos de los mejores Cabernet del mundo. Tiene frescura, tiene elegancia, tiene una nota muy sedosa en el final de boca. Consigan estos vinos con Plaza Cellars y la Boutique du Vin. Thank you so much, my
Thank you.
friend.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye. Será hasta la próxima, mi gente. Seguimos reseñando. Recuerden compartir este podcast y darle like y dejarnos un comentario. Bye bye.